So, if you're a Christian and you desire marriage and or children and you're single and you want things to happen sooner rather than later, it can be really frustrating, especially in our current climate in the world of society. It seems like dating is just getting more and more difficult, and it's just harder in general to meet people and connect with people nowadays. And there's a lot of loneliness that Christians go through who are single and desire marriage and children. And a lot of us who are dealing with this suffer in silence because people we know are either married and have kids, or the church doesn't like to talk about singleness as a desirable thing. Whereas in the Bible, there are several passages that talk about singleness and barrenness actually being a good thing, believe it or not. Jesus himself was single his entire life. And there were several people who struggled to conceive and had to wait a long time. And the Christian community doesn't like to really focus on that fact, especially one of the most prominent people in the history of humanity who God used, Abraham. He didn't conceive a child until he was almost 100. And there's such an isolating feeling in the waiting season that we can experience. And we start to wonder if we are going crazy, if God sees us and hears us, if he's abandoned us. And there's such a profound work that God does within us in the waiting season. And I am talking to myself because this has been something I've prayed about for years. And I actually was engaged to be married 13 years ago. And it didn't happen. And I feel like some days I am not any closer to that happening than I was before. And I know the struggle of desiring something and praying about it for a very long time. And it feels like some days, I just want to throw in the towel and say, God, I'm doing it my way because I am tired of waiting. Not just the fact that you see everyone else living out the blessings that you desire, but also having certain needs unmet. As a sexual being, just being real here, we have certain desires and certain needs as humans, and going for prolonged periods of time can be very difficult. going without these desires met. And yes, we could just marry whoever and settle for someone just so we can fulfill that need, but a lot of times when people do that, it does not end well. God has a lot of compassion for people who especially desire children and who are barren or who are infertile. There's actually a passage in Isaiah that talks about how the children of the desolate, barren one are more than those who have children. Excuse me. And also, I think about the passage about Hannah, who desired a child, and she was mocked by someone who was able to conceive. And she was so brokenhearted because she was praying to God for a child. And God had compassion on her, and she was able to conceive later. And it's interesting because the people who had those desires and had prayed and had to wait long periods of time, God did answer their prayer. But it was not how they wanted it to go. It wasn't how they imagined it. And Abraham even took things into his own hands and, got a concubine to have a child, and that didn't end well either. But God still was able to bring good out of that, and he still answered his prayer, even though Abraham went ahead of God. He still made him one of the greatest men to ever exist on earth. He was the father of nations. So when we go through this period of loneliness, frustration, we feel like this is taking way too long. I feel like it's never going to happen. Sometimes it feels like a pipe dream because it's been decades of us waiting and praying. God is just preparing us, and I know it sounds kind of cliche and you get tired of hearing it maybe, but it's the truth. He's not going to give us something at the wrong time and have us fumble our blessings. He cares about us too much for him to do that. So he has to wait for us to be in the right place in our lives or in our hearts to give us those blessings. There's a lot of factors that we don't really know about of why God does what he does. But in the waiting, we can draw closer to God and have faith that he is going to answer our prayer. Not in the way we think he's going to, but he will come through for us. And we just have to keep believing and trusting in him. That's all we can do. As hard as it can be, because especially now with the internet and everyone posting everything of their lives, I know for me, I have struggled with, and I've in the past years, I have tried to distance myself more from social media because it can trigger a lot of feelings of envy within myself. And I recognize that when I start to see people post things about getting married or having children, and I not so much experience the envy anymore as much as it is the grief or the sadness of what I wanted my life to be like, or what I would like my life to be like. And I start to feel the comparison. I start comparing myself to people. I start feeling discontent and not having gratitude for what God is doing in my life and what his plan is for me personally. Each one of us has a different plan and purpose. And social media can make it very difficult to remember that each one of us has a unique journey and it's not going to look the same as everyone else. And just because certain people look like they're being blessed more than others does not mean that that is the reality. We don't know what's going on behind the scenes. We don't know what's really true in that situation. We're just seeing what people are wanting us to see. And that's why it's so important to just be focused on what God, sorry, my bird is screaming and flying around. That's why it's so important to just focus on doing the best we can and putting our eyes on Jesus and remembering that he loves us and he sees our hearts. He sees our pain and our frustration about our situations. And it's okay to want certain things, and it's okay to be upset sometimes and be real and honest with God, because it is hard. It is hard. I feel like companionship and having children, reproducing, those are like the some of the top needs and purposes of us as humans. That's just how we're wired. And when we are doing life solo, we can feel very disconnected and feel like something is wrong with us, or feel like we are missing out, feel like we are not fulfilling life to our highest potential. And I'm not speaking for everyone, because I know some people do not desire these things and are content being single. But there's a large percentage of people who are in this boat and feel this way. So I'm just saying all this to empathize with you and just let you know that God understands and he hears your prayers, and he cares very deeply about what you are desiring and what you're struggling with in this moment. And just know that the greatest people that he used had to endure periods where they felt like God abandoned them and it didn't make sense, and they had to wait and endure a lot of trials, a lot of suffering. So take that as an honor if you are experiencing this. God is not abandoning you. He hears you, but he has a greater purpose for your life.